Hrr, 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 hrr. You know what that is? That's the sound of being naked and afraid. Hrr. Can you tell I've been practicing? That's your only hint to what we're about to do today. Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Kirkpatrick. I'm an author, idiot, and loin streamer, and today we are doing the best video of the month, LMIAY, where I gave you guys a prompt last month. You guys have delivered, and now it is time to partake in your delicious brain outputs. I don't know. I was trying to do something with that, and I did not get there. But before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through what we're doing here, which is I give a monthly prompt. The next one is out already. Have fun. And you just write a prompt respond, or you just write something responding to that prompt. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be professional. It's just a way to, you know, play with your chops, try different things out, low pressure, and we just celebrate here. This is not a critique circle. We just have fun. The second way to be featured is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out. If you submit the first chapter and the cover, that chapter will be read here on the channel without any opinion inserted in or around it, and hopefully that'll help more readers find your work, kind of just like a little bit of a nibble on a little bit of a trial period, and it'll whet some appetites. I know my appetite has been wetted by just reading some of those. And a third thing is, if you would like feedback on your work, I do have a program called Crit This, where you submit based on the guidelines for Crit This found on my link tree, and then I will deliver the best feedback that I can from my perspective. And just remember, it is one person's feedback. Maybe it'll give you something that you can think about. Maybe it's not helpful at all, but I will try my best to give you feedback. And you can do novels in that, just chapter by chapter or segment by segment. So check out that. And then the fourth thing is, if you'd like me to read a book, there is also a place to submit for reading, and a book that'll get a book discussion on the channel. So check that out. Finally, if you would like to read any of my books, they're available at any of your favorite places to get books. And my newest novel, The Legend of Bill Cassidy, Book 1, American Princess, will hopefully be coming out in the summer. I'm looking forward to that. So with that said, let's jump into what we're all here for today, which is LMIAY. First off, the prompt today is your character is dropped or wakes up naked somewhere they don't recognize. And this whole thing was definitely inspired by Naked and Afraid. And so that's where the beginning comes from. So with that said, the first writer that we are talking about today is M.K. McKeever. The first thing Cinders was aware of when she came to was someone tapping on her face and shaking her, murmurs and whispers from the crowd, and someone shouting, "Seb, let go of me. No, just stay here with RJ. Both of you. I'll handle it." Soon, the voice, Jocasta realized, was next, her friend joining in the hands shaking. "It's Cinders? Cinders, wake up!" Her eyes fluttered open, and she saw not only Jocasta, but Donna Alice, Padraig, and the court physicians all crouched around her, wearing looks of fear and concern, and in the case of Padraig and the Donna, anger and guilt, respectively. Her head swirled with confusion, trying to recall what happened. What were they all doing here? She looked down long enough to realize that she was completely naked, the details of her body revealed for all to see. Then looked around long enough to see the crowd of people watching the spectacle and whispering amongst themselves. "What's going on?" she exclaimed, wrapping her arm around her breast, her other hand going to cover the space between her legs. No, forget the privates. She needed to hide the brand. As her hands went to her shoulders, it all came back to her. The adoption ceremony, the terrible, crippling vulnerability of walking down the aisle before the whole court naked as the day she was born. The whispers, courtiers, and aristocrats pointing at the tattoos and brands that littered her body. Padraig already had his suit jacket off and wrapping it around her as they helped her upright, then turned to glare at Donna Alice. "I told you that she wouldn't have to do this this part. I told you she shouldn't have to do this part. Now look what... Patrick, don't. Cinder spoke up in a low voice, fearing this might cause the diplomatic fiasco they had been trying to avert. Don't give Cassiopeia what she wants, okay? She felt acid slush in her stomach as it hit her that she was minutes away from that horrible being her grandmother, legally speaking, at least. Was she in the crowd somewhere, smiling at the scene with sadistic satisfaction? The thought was enough to make Cinders place her palms to the ground, pushing herself up before slowly taking the jacket off and handing it back to Pedrick. Thank you very much for the offer. I mean it. But I have to do this. She wasn't going to have that awful woman crowing her to her few remaining allies about her weak-willed, wilder granddaughter who needed to be babied to get through the ceremony. Then she looked out at the crowd. I'm so sorry. I'm sure I gave you a fright, but I assure you I'm fine and the ceremony will continue. As for these, she put a hand across the W branded into her shoulder, a small dash next. As for this, well... this is what Mountain City privateers do to little girls with evil fathers. I'm sure Concierge Fraser can tell you about it later. She turned to Jocasta. Go check on Chastity. I'm sure this whole affair has already upset her. She glanced over Jocasta's shoulder into the crowd and found Chastity wrapped in her fiancé's arms, tears streaming down her face. Jocasta's own fiancé was standing next to them, face pale, looking like he was thinking several contradictory things at once. And I think poor Seb's about to. Sebastian wasn't really a bad guy as far as aristocratic types went. He just still had some learning to do. Both Jocasta and Pedrick hurried back to their places, leaving just her, Donna Alice, and the court physician, who looked bewildered, like he didn't quite know how to handle the situation. Thank you, Albert, but it appears that we won't be needing your services after all, Donna Alice said. Lady Cinders seems to know what she wants. She gave the future daughter a grateful, knowing smile that made Cinder's chest tug. She could feel the connection again with the young woman. Maybe not a mother-daughter bond, but a sort of understanding. Seeming unwilling to argue with the most powerful woman in the city, in front of the whole court no less, Albert scampered away as Donna Alice walked back toward the throne. Once she was seated, Cinders took a deep breath and began to march towards where the Donna stood. Fortunately, she had been over halfway down the aisle when she fainted, and within seconds she was in front of Donna Alice, slowly kneeling before her, unsheathing the dagger from her side before declaring, "You were born Hestia, with no last name, as Wilders believe that women do not deserve such things." For a minute, Cinders felt that she might cry, both overwhelmed by someone using her original name after so long, and shame. The Donna continued. "The mother of your birth was also Hestia. She too had no last name, a wilder brood mare. The father of your birth was Bateman Hines, a wilder raider. I honor them both, though your father certainly deserves no honor." She raised the dagger to cure her wrist, taking the blood on her hands before crouching down just enough to smear across Cinder's forehead. "From this day forward, you are Cinder's Rosewood, royal daughter, blood of my blood. You may rise, my daughter." Cinder slowly got up, turning to face the crowd. "I present to you this day Lady Cinder's Rosewood, my daughter, first of her name and the first in line to the city," Donna Alice declared. The crowd burst into dignified applause, a pleasant warmth filling Cinder's, even as a wave of exhaustion washed over. They had done it. She was officially grad royalty. She could officially marry Pedrick, a prospect that wasn't nearly as terrifying as it once was. Cinder smiled, the first genuine smile of the day, as two ladies-in-waiting wrapped her in dark jade robe and hurried her away to clean and to dress her for the celebration feast. There's such an honesty to the ritual of this scene that it feels developed. It feels like it exists in a place, and it feels like it exists in a place of reverence and not kind of just thrown in there or made up, but it feels like there is weight to it. Excellent job of bringing us into that specific ritual and bringing us into that world through the ritual that is so expected and also is so revered. Like, you just built the reputation around it by us being there. Excellent work. The next story is by Mae Tanner. Varen's head pounded and his entire body ached. He forced his eyes open. Wherever he was, the darkness was absolute. Beneath him was a hard surface so icy it stole the warmth from his bare skin. When he tried to sit up, he realized his hands were bound behind his back. He finally sat up, panting from the struggle. With his legs pulled against his chest to conserve heat, only his butt and the soles of his feet contacted the cold, hard floor. He rested his head on his knees and drifted off. A sound awakened him. He lifted his head as a door opened, flooding the room with light. Several people entered, and someone turned on the overhead light. Varen blinked against the glare. A masked woman stepped forward. "Good. You're awake." She made a gesture. "Delos, you like raw meat, don't you?" A man stepped to her side. "Yeah." She pointed at Varen. "Help yourself to a snack." Delos furrowed his brow. "I promised Mama I'd stop eating people." "I don't want you to eat him. I just want you to snack on him. He needs to answer questions. Nibble on him so that he'll be more cooperative." "But Mama said..." The woman made a slashing motion. "Enough! Remember, the group spared your life because they thought that you could be useful. I am the leader now. Obey me to prove yourself." The man nodded and turned towards Varen. He darted to Varen's side, baring his teeth. A chill filled Varen's heart. Delos had teeth like a predator, complete with long canines and sharp, jagged edges. Delos shoved him onto his side and grabbed at his thigh. Varen struggled, kicking his legs, but Delos dug sharp claws into his flesh, immobilizing him as he took a bite. The bite burned, and Varen screamed. Delos chewed and swallowed, then bit Varen again. When the woman finally told Delos to stop, a searing pain consumed Varen's leg. He lay on the floor, sobbing. She came forward and knelt beside him. "Now," the woman said, opening a notebook, "you will describe the palace defenses." The notebook displayed the palace floor plan. Oof, what a not good situation to wake up naked in. Or even clothed. You wouldn't want to be in this situation. But excellent building tension, and also just feels grounded to the point that oh yeah, we just believe that this guy Delos, he just is going to eat people, and however old he is, whatever is going on there, and believing this woman's power over the tribe now that she's the leader. Excellent work. And also very short piece, but works. The next story is by F. Jeremiah Chamberlain. Should we spread them out more? Spread them out where? Out this way so we can lure it into the funnel that we have here. Do we have enough bodies for that? Soldado professional Carlos Hecavarria wasn't fully sure if he was even alive or not. The voices crept into his ears like maggots into a carcass, but he didn't have the energy to squirm away from it all. Even the hands that grabbed him felt pale and faint, like reapers were collecting his soul off the threshing floor to be fed into the fire. But it wasn't until he fell into a searing pain sliced through his abdomen and brought him back to reality. The dim rainforest was as dark as the other world, but he was blinded by the light of a lantern hanging off of a large wheelbarrow. It had 2 dead bodies in it, both stripped naked and covered in blood. The sticks and rocks on the rainforest floor poked at his entire body as he landed, for he had been thrown from this wheelbarrow, informing him that he too had been stripped bare. The sand was slick with blood from the nearby pile of corpses. It was all too much for Carlos to take in, as he was whimpering from a bullet hole in his gut. "Fuck, he's still alive," one of the reapers, dressed in the country's uniform, sighed. "I got it," his partner groaned. He unslung the Mauser 1912 and flipped the safety. Carlos gasped and held out a hand. The effort tormented him, but the imminent danger overrode every pain in his naked body. "Wait," he heaved through a dry throat. "Please, wait." The deadly flight of a 7.57 millimeter round cut through him, but instead of finishing Carlos off, It punched through the skull of his would-be executioner, causing the steel of the helmet to shriek as it ripped under the impact. He dropped like a sack of potatoes, and his partner looked in the direction the shot came from. He was too slow to react, as a third man dressed in Colombian fatigues ran him through the neck with a bayonet affixed to his rifle. The two fell to the ground, but only one stood back once everything was silent. Fear gripped his heart until the victor turned around. "Carlos? Who are you?" The figure ran over and tore his helmet off. "Me, you idiot! I've been—" Relief washed away the desperation and filth caking his face. "I've been looking all over this butchery for you. I was starting to think that you were dead." At last, Carlos Echeverria recognized the features, hardened and worn as they were, on his brother Raul. His dehydrated body could only offer up a few tears as gratitude, disbelief, and confusion flooded his soul. "Here," Raul said to Carlos. Raul said as Carlos failed to find the words, "Drink this. Are you hit anywhere? I need to." Raul looked him up and down until he found a bullet hole in his brother's lower abdomen. The pain returned to him as the adrenaline wore off. "Fuck. Here, lie down. I'll stop this up." Raul laid his brother down as gently as he could. Then he went to loot the bodies of the two men that he had killed, returning with bandages, gauze, disinfectant, and morphine. "Hold your breath, kid. This is gonna hurt." Raul stuffed a wad of fabric in Carlos before operating. However Carlos had acquired the wound was lost on him, as he had blacked out for the last several hours. It was in that event that he could remark to himself, between panicked, stifled cries, that this was the worst pain that he had ever felt in his life. He had endured it twice, so that the exit wound could be plugged too. When he was done, Raul poured water over his forehead and caressed him for a moment. "Thought I had lost you forever," he whispered. What the hell is going on? I have no idea. Whoever those guys are, they are not our countrymen. Something bad is going on here. Something evil. It's a good thing I heard you calling my name." "Me? I never said your name. I was unconscious until a few moments ago." "Really? Then how?" "Hey! Is anyone over there?" "Shit. Play dead." Carlos fell back to the ground, which sliced a tiny sinew of pain through him. He was able to stifle it as Raul stood up and answered, "Yeah, I am." "Did you hear the gunshots? We have a couple baits alive and running loose. Yeah, I've been chasing one. I thought I heard him running that way, but stopped to check on these two here." "How are they?" The stranger entered Carlos's view and wore a dirty collection of Colombian articles. He whistled and his shoulder dropped. "Nope, they're gone." Then he made eye contact with Carlos. "Wait, this bait is still alive." It was the last thing that he ever said. Raul swung the butt of his rifle across the back of his head like a club. Once he fell, Raul fell on him and slit his throat. "You're a lousy actor," he chided, looting the fresh body. "Fuck you." Carlos tried to sit up, but the hole in his body kept him down. "Easy, Carlito. Relax. You're injured." "What do we do now? What are we supposed to do?" "I don't know. But we sure as shit can't stay here. Can you walk?" "Maybe. If you can help me up." After a few more minutes' rest, he did. Raul dressed him in a relooted jacket and trousers, offering Carlos his helmet, since it was the only headpiece around them that fit. Raul, for his part, hunched under the weight of the brimming rucksack gorged with supplies taken off whoever these men were. Whatever this new reality was, it unsettled him more than his brother's presence comforted him. "Now what?" Carlos asked, a hand pressed to his wound. "We walk," Raul said, starting off into the wild. "Until someone or something finds us." "Until someone or something finds us," Carlos echoed under his breath. He hoped it wasn't a jaguar. As they departed, a fetid stench filled the air. Raul froze and shouldered his rifle, but the odor passed as quickly as it came. Without another word, he pulled his brother along. I missed this. I don't know. I feel like it's been but that's because I think Chamberlain did a different story last time to go with that prompt. But I really missed this writing. I don't know. I just really like your writing style a lot. There's such tension in what you're writing, and not just because of the threat that's going on, but just like and with that one, the chemistry between the brothers palpable. The next story is by Tyler. Welcome. I think this is your first time in. The first sensation was cold, smooth, polished, and absolutely against my bare skin. My eyes fluttered open to blinding white light that seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere at once. The air smelled of old paper and something else. Something metallic and cold, like dried tears or the faint scent of ozone after a lightning strike. The only sound was a faint dry rustle of a billion pages turning in unison, a sound that was both everywhere and nowhere, like the library's own breath. I sat up slowly, my mind complete and perfect memory of life just lived. 67 years as a corporate lawyer. I remembered the sterile scent of my penthouse office, the taste of the expensive whiskey, the hollow echo of my footsteps in a house too big for one person. I remembered lying on my deathbed, attended by a nurse paid by the hour, and the single crushing thought that had defined my end. I had never truly loved anyone. Now I was here, naked and afraid, in a perfect cube of milky white light. Beyond the custodians, there was a constant physical sensation of being observed from all directions. It wasn't a feeling. It was a pressure on my skin, like standing in a heavy wind, making my nakedness feel even more exposed and vulnerable. The walls weren't solid at all. They were shelves. Endless rows of books extending in every direction, their spines glowing with the same internal luminescence as the floor. I stood unsteady and approached the nearest shelf. The book I selected felt warm to the touch, pulsing slightly, like a living thing. When I opened it, I saw myself as a teacher, surrounded by laughing children, a simple gold band on my finger. The scene shifted to show me holding my newborn daughter, my heart swelling with an emotion I'd never experienced in my 67 years. Domesticity, a voice like chiming bells whispered beside me. How boring. I turned to find a figure approaching between the shelves. Impossibly beautiful, with hair like spun silver and robes of pure white. She was the very image of a goddess of benevolence. Behind her, another being materialized, cloaked in shadows that shifted like ink in water. A third followed, a towering figure with fiery red hair and armor of glowing gold. The library of possibilities, the goddess of light explained, her serene smile never reaching her ancient, star-filled eyes. Every book contains a version of your life. You get to choose what comes next. As if on cue, a section of shelves across from me began to rearrange itself, books flying from their places to form new patterns. The shadowy one noticed my alarm. The reorganization happens periodically. When it completes, any souls who haven't chosen are absorbed into the library, forgotten forever. Panic fluttered in my chest. How do I find my true story? The goddess of light extended a slender, perfect finger toward a distant section where the books glowed with a deeper, steadier light. The core narratives, but be warned, the path isn't straightforward. The god of war stepped forward, its voice a low, resonant boom. The boring lives are for lesser souls. You were always meant for greatness. Its form shifted, its golden armor melting away to resemble my deceased business partner. I flinched at the familiar voice. Don't pretend to be him. The creature's form shifted back to its divine, martial splendor. Even here, you see through the illusions. That's why you're our favorite bet. Bet? I asked, my voice trembling. The goddess of light raised a hand and a ledger made of pure light materialized in the air between us. As I watched, symbols etched onto its pages. We wager on which emotional outcome will be strongest, she chimed. But then a new voice slithered into my mind, not from the god of war's mouth, but directly inside of my skull. Despair is the most honest emotion. It's the truth of the world. You know this. You've felt it on your deathbed. Another thought, cold and sharp, pierced through. Betrayal is just efficiency applied to relationships. You taught yourself that lesson better than anyone. Don't pretend you've forgotten. The goddess of light's beautiful face twisted into a smirk as she watched me flinch. Noble failure is the most delicious vintage, is it not? The hope makes the final despair so much more potent. She wasn't speaking to them anymore. She was speaking to the voices in my head. As if to demonstrate, a book flew from the nearby shelf and opened before me. I saw myself as a tech billionaire surrounded by admirers, but still alone. The scene shifted to show me accepting an award, my speech eloquent but empty. Successor, the god of war rumbled beside me. The book snapped shut and returned to its place. Another flew open, and this time showing a different version of me, a simple fisherman married to a woman I dated briefly in law school before choosing my career over her. We were laughing on a boat, our children playing nearby. Father, the shadow one whispered, its voice like a rustle of dry leaves. I reached for the second book, my fingers trembling. But before I could open it, another book flew from the shelves, a thick volume with a golden spine. It opened before me, showing a life where I'd chosen love over career, married that woman, raised children, and died surrounded by grandchildren, my heart full. Rewrite, the goddess of light whispered, her voice full of manufactured warmth. You could have had this all along. You could erase your mistake. When the golden book opened, the air around it visibly warmed. A gentle, golden light enveloped me, and for a moment I felt a profound sense of peace and belonging, a physical ache of longing that made my teeth hurt. The metallic scent of regret in the air seemed to vanish, replaced by a phantom smell of sea salt and a child's hair. Choose it, the shadow one urged, its form shifting to resemble my mother. Choose the life that you should have lived. It would have been so easy to say yes, to sink into that warmth, but a colder, harder part of me, the part that had survived 67 years of calculated choices, rose up and simply said no. No, I said, pulling my hand back. That's not my choice. The divine being's serene smiles faded. The symbols in the ledger of light flickered and shifted. The odds just shifted, the god of war muttered. I walked past them, deeper into the library, ignoring the books that flew open around me. Finally, in a quiet corner, I found it, a simple, unassuming book with a plain brown cover. As my fingers touched the leather, a searing cold shot up my arm, a pain so intense it almost made me cry out. This book demanded a price. I forced it open. The vision was a gut punch. I saw it all. The warmth of a family that loved me, the pride of a student who admired me, then the cold betrayal of that same student, the ghost of my own ambition, wearing his face. The joy and the sting were one and the same. As I watched the vision of my rival triumph, the searing cold in my arm intensified, a physical echo of the future betrayal. I could feel the phantom sting of lost respect, the hollow ache of a loved one's doubt. This book didn't just show me the life. It forced me to feel its cost, right here, right now. I closed the book and held it to my chest. This is my choice. The beings gathered around, their beautiful faces, masks of contempt. The ledger of light flared with new, complex patterns. The odds were against this, the shadow one said. The payout will be substantial. The shadowy one leaned in close, its voice a venomous whisper. You think that you can save them from becoming like you? The only way to protect them is to show them how the world truly works, to become the monster again for their sake. As if on cue, the library began to shake. The light intensified, and the books began to fly from the shelves, rearranging themselves wildly. The reorganization begins, the goddess of light proclaimed, her voice like the tolling of a beautiful, terrible bell. You chose just in time. I looked around at the other souls, some frantically grabbing books, others sitting catatonic as the chaos erupted around them. I was utterly alone. Then came the sound. Pages turning rapidly, accelerating until it became a single harmonious tone that vibrated through my entire being. As the light enveloped me, pulling me toward my new life, I experienced a moment of cosmic understanding. I saw the library as it truly was, a farm, and I was not just the meal, but an ingredient that they could use to flavor future meals. The goddess of hope engineered the most heartbreaking betrayals as false hope created the most potent despair. Their appearances were a cruel mockery of the concepts they represented. Then this knowledge, too, began to fade, and the last thing I perceived was the overwhelming alien hunger of the beings who watched me, a silent applause as their entertainment continued. Then nothing, and then everything. And then it starts. This feels like the prologue to what would be this guy's second chance or reincarnation or whatever this is that would then go into the life that he is now choosing to go into, and you would have like reflections of the life that he lived initially compared to the way that things will go this time as he makes different choices, because this does feel like the starter of something that is yet to come. Nice job on building the tension, keeping the tension, and just the vibe. The next story is by Egao Chan, who we just finished one of his books from Loin Stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it, because I did. This is called Tofu Bride. Whoa, what? Wu Xiaoming tried to reach his phone when he woke up, but his arm bumped into a wooden surface to his right. He tried again and bumped into another wooden surface above him. Not a trace of light could be found around. The air was still and moist, making breathing especially exhausting. He reached and felt around. It seemed that he was in a wooden box with a heavy load on top. He was definitely not where he had been, his bed. He would also never sleep naked. Did he get kidnapped? No, he would have remembered if he was. So this would be an illusion or a limbo? He pushed through the wooden board above him. The surface was really rough, and the load above him was not as heavy, at least not for what he knew about proper burials. A piece of rag was under his butt, along with some small grains. Maybe some of those were dirt. Yeah! He pushed upward with full force. The wooden board was lifted up for only a moment before his hands broke through and went straight up. Through the prickly wood and a shallow layer of dirt and sand, his hands reached the chilled air outside. Dirt began pouring in, but he retracted his hands and began pushing again. A few yelps came through the holes. Then came the sound of hurried steps scurrying away. He punched up a few more times and finally sat straight up from his shallow grave. Very far ahead was a village surrounded by fog with a few lanterns on. At last, 3 men were running toward it, looking back and terrified. How could he blame them? He would be terrified too. A few of the graves around him had already been dug up, and the bodies were tossed around like garbage. All but one, an old woman, was dressed, with a rather decent shroud on her. Her wrists, one of which had a jade bracelet. Her mouth was open, and if he remembered certain burial traditions correctly, there would have been a piece of jade in it. No doubt, the running men took it. He looked up, a pale round moon above, only the light seemed to be turning red. Surely a bad time for grave robbing and waking up in a grave. He tied the white cloth around his waist so that he would not be naked and embarrassed. The village was just as creepy as Wu Zhongming had expected. The houses and shacks were gray and covered in ashes and dust. Blood-red lanterns dangled in the wind, marking a way for him to the biggest house, or one could even call a small manor in the village. Guests speaking, music playing, songstresses singing. A feast of some kind was going on inside of the manor, while all the other houses and shacks in the village appeared to be empty. In a corner beside the entrance, 3 men whose clothes were covered in dirt and sand were lying on the ground, their faces pale, their mouths foaming. Wu Zhongming peeked into the manor from its main gate. There were at least 10 empty round tables in the yard, all surrounded by guests. In front of the main house sat a wooden stage with 2 chairs side by side and 1 small wooden table in between. A traditional Chinese wedding, and all of the villagers were guests. Chills shot up through his spine and froze him in place for a moment when he laid his eyes on the guests. Every one of them was in festive clothing, but at the same time they no longer had bodies of flesh and blood, but all made of paper. Red dot cheeks, ink-drawn eyes, and fake hair or drawn-on hair on their heads. "The groom is here!" The host of the wedding, also made out of paper and paint, announced. Sensing a looming danger from standing out, Wu Xiaoming jumped to the closest table, pulled a chair, and sat down while maintaining some distance from the other guests. None of them actually noticed anyway. They just clapped. The groom was wheeled out on a wooden cart by 4 paper men. He was the only flesh and blood in the whole scene, aside from Wu Xiaoming himself. He was tied up, his mouth stuffed by red rags. "And here comes the bride." The host raised his arms and announced. His voice was much more upbeat and joyous. The bride, also of paper, came out, accompanied by 3 other people in festive clothing. Her red dress was particularly outstanding, even glowing, truly a bride of the occasion. "Dear guests, the ceremony is ready," the host announced. "Wait!" Just this moment, a fearful, trembling female voice came from the front gate. Another woman in a crude red dress was standing in the front gate. "He does not want to marry you." The young woman of flesh and blood walked toward the groom. You can't just force marry a man like this." "Tofu girl!" The bride pointed her paper fingers to the intruder. "How dare you!" The groom shook his head at the young woman, but she kept straight until a group of men in black swarmed her and pushed her down. "Beat her! Cut her damn face!" the bride screeched again. Paper men in black threw their fists at the young woman, kicked her again and again. One of them even pulled out a wooden stick. Dark smoke arose from the young woman's body. Wu Xiaoming shot up and tried to stop the paper men, but he was blocked by an invisible wall. He pushed, bashed, and kicked, yet the wall was simply too sturdy. The cries of the young woman echoed in the manor until they were no more. Dark smoke exploded from where the young woman was, sweeping through all of the guests and Wu Xiaoming. When the smoke dissipated, Wu Xiaoming found himself back in his seat. The ceremony had yet to begin. The bride and groom were not out. His left hand felt light, and he looked down. His entire hand had turned to paper. His forearm was still normal, but from the looks of it, it would not be long. I don't know what's going on here, but I like it. I know that's not much to say, but I don't know. I like no bias here. I like the idea of paper people and making a story that has like paper people and how paper people interact with non-paper people and just like, ugh. I'm so intrigued. I'm so intrigued by what is going on here. Anybody else? Everybody else? Look, I'm going to speak for us all. Everybody else is intrigued. What? More, please. The last story for this month is by Valorie Beaudyka. Pain. Pain in my skull, pain in my neck, pain in my back. In the distance, something crashes to the ground with a thud, and the whole world shakes. I want to go back to sleep. But through the ringing in my ears, I can hear the hissing stream and the crackling flames, and instantly I know, to sleep is to die. I force myself to my feet and brace myself on a boxcar wall. No. Not the wall. The ground is the wall. What I'm leaning on is the floor. I can't remember the crash, but I remember the sensations. The scream of the whistle, the vibrations of the explosion, and the whole world pitching on its side. Light streams in from above, through the open slide door. I force myself forward, one step at a time. A corpse appears. A corpse appears before me, its brains splattered on a steamer trunk. I stop for a moment, the air trapped in my throat, and then I move on with a prayer of thanksgiving to a God that doesn't exist. It's not her. It's just the clerk who caught us before the crash. The door is open, and I'm alone with the corpse. That means she got out. That means she's alive. I pull myself from the darkness and into the light of the setting sun. The scene from hell appears before me, a canyon painted in internal shades by a glowing embers of burning wreckage and the rusty shade of blood. I scan the horizon. Nothing. Bodies litter the ground. I see a figure different from the rest slumped against an overturned baggage carriage. It's not her. It's dressed differently from the rest, but it's not her. It could be a railroad detective, or a cazador, or a string fellow. I hit the ground with a thud. The fall is slight, but it still sends me crashing into the dust. My skin prickles under the burning heat of the evening air, and I realize that I'm naked. Did she strip me? Did she think me dead? Smart. My armor will keep her safe. Better for her to have it than for it to rot here with my corpse in this canyon. I roll over on my back. Faint stars fleck a crimson sky high above the steep walls of the canyon. In the distance, I can hear the yelping of monkey-pod coyotes and the howl of slow mutants. Soon it'll be my carrion they're fighting for. As their distant cries grow closer, I wonder, was this how the ancients felt when the towers buckled? Did they choke on the dust when the world rose and fell like a cresting wave? Did the skin prickle under the electric hatred of the blue haze? And did their hearts despair at the sight of flesh twisted with alien corruption? How could they not? So that's it? You're gonna just roll over and die? Faith was right about you. I drag myself forward, crawling through the dirt like a mud scupper through the muck. I pull myself beside the figure and rest my aching back against the carriage. It's a saltwater regulator. The oil slicker and sackcloth mask make that obvious. They must have blown the bridge with the intent of looting the wreckage. I strip the clothes from the body. The gunshots echo down the canyon. They're close, maybe 30 meters away, close and familiar. Arcanay. Adrenaline surges through my veins as I spring towards the familiar crackle of a 30-06 repeating rifle. Arcanay's in danger. She's fired 3 shots. She should have 5 more in an en bloc. Unless she shot the saltwater, then she's got 3. My mind races through the possible scenarios as more gunshots echo out. A saltwater patrol, aggressive, slow mutants, giant dragtails, sting fellow. My mind races so fast I almost miss the precipice hurling toward me. At the last moment, I drop into a slide and stop myself from hurling myself down into a 30-foot drop. Down in the gully, I see 7 figures, surrounded by half a dozen dead dragtails, each as big as a small dog. But it isn't the unholy union of spiders or scorpions that catch my eye, but the hulking giant at the center of the group. He's got someone in his arms, thrashing about, trying to get free. I can't make them out clearly, but I can recognize my coat on the thrashing figure, and I recognize her raven black hair. Arachnia continues to thrash about the giant's arms. One of the saltwaters approaches her and does something that makes her stop. You have a gun, Kaz. Shoot them. Too far and too many. The cut-down rifle in the dead saltwater's hands couldn't make half of the distance. You might hit Arachnia. I watch the saltwaters drag Arachnia into a narrow cut in the canyon. I wait a minute, and then another. When I'm sure that they're not coming back, I slide myself down the sloping cliff as slowly as I can, thankful to have the dead saltwater's clothes to protect me. My body aches and shivers, but I have no time for pain. There'll be time for rest when Arachnia is safe, and not a moment sooner. Bring in the intensity. Oh my gosh. I am impressed. I am blown away by the intensity that you've brought with waking up naked and afraid. I mean, that kind of sets it up too. it could have been a comedy. It could have been a lot of things, but you guys all brought the drama and like this, especially the tension. I mean, I don't know if it was just in the way that I was reading it, but also it very naturally read with so much tension, so much mystery, so much grip. I just want to say excellent Wonderful work to everybody. A pleasure to read. Let me know what your favorite story was in the comments down below. And thank you so much for joining this month's LMIAY. Check out the next one if you would like to join it, courtesy of Abigail. With that said, have a great week, a great weekend, and don't die.
To my children, Tommy, Annabelle, and Ike, if you forget everything else I said in the lifetime I had with you, I need you to remember these 3 things. 1. I believe a woman's love is the most powerful thing on this earth. It can start wars, end them, and change the devil himself into someone God might see worthy of giving a second chance. She don't owe this love to anyone, but she do carry it around with her so long as she is living, and to give it away is something special. This is why evil will do anything it can to pervert women's nature and destroy their innocence. Of every crime you might commit during your lifetime, be it of daring or necessity, for every defiance you may act out against God, government, or man, avoid harming the innocent, for the day that we become bloodthirsty beasts where love don't exist anymore is the day hell on earth has come. And as bad as it may seem at times nowadays, we ain't there yet. For this reason, minimize violence done to and by women. As givers of life, it's against their nature to do harm. Every act of violence done to them is meant to break their souls, turning what should be a giver of hope into a bitter black widow, destroying lives in the mercy of her care for no reason but to quiet the corruption of her own self. It is only when you come across these sorts of women that you should put them down. 2. Everything you do in your life will create consequences, both seen and unseen, reaching far beyond what you can imagine. Nothing you do exists solely within your arm's reach, and you'll never be able to anticipate what all your decisions will do. Think hard of every action you take, because you won't know how long your choices will stalk you. Be firm in knowing who you are outside of the noise, and live beyond the expectations or news or rumors of the day. 3. There ain't anything stronger than the family you build for yourself. Protect the ones you love with your life, and they'll give you theirs in return. Family ain't defined by blood, understand that. And for as strong as the bonds of your family are, know that you'll find just as much passion in the people who hate you. While you'll risk your life for the ones that you care about, those who find your existence to be an insult will risk themselves to put an end to their affliction. As cruel as it may seem, a man running on hate will stop at nothing until one of yous is dead. Don't let you be the ones taken from, be it by outlaw, lawman, or anyone in between. The only one who'll be looking out for you is you and yours. Showing mercy to men who wouldn't show it to you is a costly mistake. Maybe there's another way to be, but in all my years, I ain't found a way around a man's seed for greed and pride. Sometimes I believe there ain't the ability for man to change at all, be it by lead or legislation. I ain't claiming to be right about nothing. On many things, I wish I hadn't the experience. But what I want is for my kids to live a life better than the one I did, and to avoid the hardships I went through while finding the truth and purpose in what matters more than all the gold in this country. It's my hope that by sharing the things I learned, my kids will be better than their old man ever was, and that what I done ain't what people remember me for, but who y'all are gonna become that'll be the legend of Bill Cassidy.